And she later went into the theater business herself because she lost her husband on board. She got on one of the last lifeboats, in fact, the last lifeboat. And she could see what I was looking for, the vivid things. And she was at the same time a good reporter, and she was on almost to the end. Captain Smith saw her at one point on the bridge when the ship was almost at its beam's end, and he said, "What are you doing still here?" Because he knew her from being a prominent passenger. And she walked from the starboard side to the port side through the bridge. I think she was probably the last passenger to see Captain Smith, because her boat, she left only 15 minutes after her lifeboat left, the ship went down. Oh, she was one of the best sources, too, that I had. Her name was Edith Russell. She was a perfectly wonderful person. She was a fashion stylist, she called herself. Her name was Rosenbaum at the time, and she was Edith Rosenbaum. And she had been to Paris for the spring collections of dresses and fashions and style. And her business was a little bit borderline. She made quick sketches of them, brought them back for New York to the designers, and which she sold them. So she had a sort of running trade back and forth across the Atlantic. She was on board with a separate cabin full of dresses and so on. The one thing she had that was of virtually no value, but which she cherished, was a little music box pig, which was a lucky symbol. She had been in an automobile accident, had survived, and her father gave her this, told her it was a lucky talisman to take it with her wherever she went. Pigs in France bring you luck. Edith Russell was firmly convinced that it brought her luck, and she wouldn't dream of doing anything without the pig being along. So when the Titanic was sinking and she was out on the boat deck waiting to get into the boat, she suddenly realized she didn't have her pig. And she was very hesitant, and her steward came up to her at that time, stewards being very solicitous people on ships. They'll do anything for you. And this steward proved it by going back to Edith Russell's cabin and getting for her the pig, this pig. And so when he came back, it was wrapped in a blanket, and it was such a big bulging thing that in the half-light of lowering the boats, a sailor took it and threw it into the boat and told Edith to follow it. He thought it was a baby. And he said, "There's your baby, follow it." So Edith did follow it, and therefore she claims was saved by the pig. It's a musical pig, and she wound it up and played the maxis for the children in the lifeboat. But most of the passengers in that boat that I found were just irritated by the pig, rather than thinking it was such a touching detail.
Edith Russell, Edith Rosenbaum then, also kept the telegraphs she sent from the Carpathia. And the slippers that she wore on board the Titanic. William McQuitty, who produced the film version A Night to Remember, was given a purse which had been found by a survivor in one of the lifeboats.
There were some 80 survivors alive when I made this film, and I had 50 letters and contact with 50 of them. Edith Russell came on board the sets from time to time, and so did Lawrence Beasley, and they were great help. And one survivor sent me this purse with a letter, and it's a silver purse, and inside there's a 1-cent American piece dated 1912. I received this silver purse from Joe Mulholland. He says, "I met an old shipmate of mine down in the River Plate, South America, in La Plata. When ashore on the booze, his name was Baker, but all his mates called him Pancake. He was one of the crew who was lucky, one of the lucky ones to get away. He told me that the purse was lying in the bow of the lifeboat in which he was fortunate to crawl on board out of the ditch. Inside the purse was a brooch and $20, a ring, signet, 1-cent piece, a silver chain attached to the purse as strap or handle. I asked him what he did with the ring, brooch, and chain, and he told me that he flogged them for booze. I got the purse from him for a drink or two containing the 1-cent piece. Pancake died in the asylum in Belfast. It's a difficult letter to read because
Bill McQuitty saw the Titanic launched in Belfast as a boy, and he renewed a contact with the ship by having a copy of his autobiography, A Life to Remember, taken down to the wreck in a submersible. And it's got the official stamp to prove it.
this book was taken down by the Russian submarine Mir 2 to the wreck of the Titanic. And this is a certificate to that effect.
Bill McQuitty's film, A Night to Remember, is the finest screen version of the tragedy. And somehow the Titanic and the cinema were made for each other. The spectacular bigness of the whole venture, the blend of classes and characters aboard her, the epitome of elegance and style in design, engineering and lifestyle, and yet the fatal flaws in the design that could not save the so-called unsinkable ship from sinking, and in human judgment to negotiate an ice field at full speed, and to evacuate the liner more effectively with the time given to do it. The ship within sight that didn't come to the rescue. The many human stories of courage, heroism and despair. It was a microcosm of society and the end of an era, and it was a story made for the movies. The only genuine film which exists of the great ship consists of two brief shots taken on February the 17th, 1912, as she entered the Thomson graving dock next to Harland and Wolff's yard in Belfast. Within days of the sinking, newsreels were being shown, put together from existing footage of the Titanic's sister ship Olympic, filmed on her maiden arrival in New York in June 1911. And here doubling for the Titanic.
This is one surviving newsreel.
Captain Smith walks about the deck dressed in summer whites. On this and many other shots, identifying notices and tugboat names have been obliterated by hand on the negative to hide the fact that this is the Olympic the previous summer.